Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Kevin Diesel's Dojo. Today, I'm here to talk about a new anime that is new to Netflix, that being Devil May Cry. I'm going to kind of give my general thoughts and sentiments on the series as a whole, first and foremost. And then after I'm done with that, I really want to start looking at what the narrative is around this show outside of my own perspective and outside of my own community. Let's start off with talking about the show in a nutshell. For people that aren't aware, Devil May Cry is a video game adaptation. If you have not played the Devil May Cry video games, I recommend you go find an emulator, or I think on PlayStation Prime, they should have DMC 1, 2, 3, potentially, I think the reboot and the sequel that they did from like, what was that, 2014 maybe? I can't remember. Dante is one of Capcom's bigger characters that everybody knows, especially in the States, because he definitely feels like an American coded character for sure. But there's a couple things when it comes to Dante that I feel like as an adaptation you need to have. One is the arrogance, the violence, the overall cool factor. He has to have a little swag to him. And I feel like this version of Dante has all three of those things in spades. Also, shout out to Kevin Conroy. For people that were not aware, Kevin Conroy was in this. He is in this and he is fucking acting his ass off. Dante in this world is very dope. He essentially in this world is kind of taking place early in the DMC lore. So at this point, Dante does not know he is the son of Sparta. Dante does not know that he's even a half demon. And he for sure does not know that his brother Vergil is alive. So this is very early on in like the DMC story. And this whole story of the series pretty much revolves around Dante having his amulet taken from him, and that connected to the other half of the amulet, and having his blood and Vergil's blood put upon it, and that being put in the Sword of Sparta, which then opening up the wall that keeps hell and earth separate. So again, something pretty similar to I think DMC 2. But instead of Vergil being the main person to like physically try to do this entire thing, it is done by the character by the name of the White Rabbit. Do not remember the White Rabbit being a like predominant DMC character. It's been a while. I remember like Armadeus or like Arkham being a character. I remember Lady, I remember Vergil, obviously, but I do not remember the White Rabbit. Where this comes into being an interesting show for me is the clear line between who's right and wrong gets a lot more blurry as the show goes on. Because obviously from the start of the show, you have people who are you perceive as good and evil. Dante may be like a chaotic neutral, obviously, but for the most part, he's a good guy. When you're introduced to the White Rabbit, he essentially is introduced as this like super creepy, eerie, demonic character. And I do want to talk about him and his entrance first and foremost, because I do think that character's introduction is probably the most important thing about them whenever you're bringing them into a show. Him being the White Rabbit in this and being framed as a evil person is something that is obviously initially very cut and dry for the most part for a lot of people. But once you get into more context behind who he is and how he got to this point, and this kind of goes into my favorite episode of the series being episode 6. Episode 6 was where you really got a lot of the backstory and the development on the White Rabbit character as well as Lady Arkham in this series. Lady essentially in this is working for Darkhelm, which is this like anti-demon task force sanctioned by the American government, and they literally just go around America just killing demons without hesitation. Obviously, it feels like Darkhelm was being targeted from the beginning of the series, but in episode 6 is when you find out why. Dante is amazing. Dante is great. Action's there. He's a little cool, but I think the side characters like a Lady Arkham and like the White Rabbit make this series a series. Like, I don't think this show is as good if they don't get the same amount of attention they have gotten up until this point and after the whole information we get from the background. The show is amazing, but it's because they uplift those side characters so much. Because Dante himself, for the most part in this series, he's not boring. I don't think that's the word to use for him, but he's kind of the same thing we've seen before. We've seen characters like Dante before. We've seen the cool guy with the busted powers, and maybe it's just for the factor in this season it really wasn't about him, and we haven't got a lot of development around him. And I feel like a lot of the stuff around Dante making us care for him as a character will come in the next season. But again, I think this was the season for Lady and for the White Rabbit character. But again, now that I've given my perspective and thoughts on the show and why the show is amazing, I would like to sit down and react to some of the takes that I'm seeing from some people about the series. First up is a video by a guy, Jesse Golo. He has 23K subscribers on YouTube.
So Netflix made a new Devil May Cry show, and it was so fun. Like, half the time, but the other half had problems. Spoilers for the whole show, by the way. I've never played these games. My knowledge of this franchise is based entirely on Dante's death battle with Bayonetta, vaguely knowing who Nero is, and some Yahtzee reviews.
So I do think this is where we need to like kind of taper some expectations and give a little bit of grace, because I think he, as well as what a lot of people are going to do, is look at this as purely a show in itself and not as a game adaptation. Because I think everybody watching this that were fans of the game are expecting certain things from this in regards to how certain characters should act and whatnot. But if you're watching this as its own standalone series, remember, give some grace there. So again, my bad. I didn't want to stop this already on a mean rant, but that's what it is. Let's get back into it.
Take this as a review to figure out what someone who's almost completely unfamiliar with the franchise thinks of it. Having said that,
That being said, I do think
I
that's a healthy way to
reiterate,
talk about it.
this show was fun. Dante was great. Not sure if he's supposed to come off as what I can only describe as a cool dork, but he did, and I liked it. One second he's trying to come off as cool and usually failing at it, and the next he's just effortlessly doing something incredibly cool. Though I can't lie, from the little I do know about DMC, I kind of expected Dante to be more overwhelmingly powerful. And he was powerful, but only really to the designated father.
I wouldn't say he was only powerful to the designated father, just for the factor of even the bigger demons he encountered, for the most part, when he fought them, they didn't really stand too much of a chance either. And this is with them all like jumping him for the most part, like have them having to put him in serious disadvantages. Like I think this show did a really good job of showcasing how much of an overpowered demon, no pun intended, Dante is.
Consider this is supposed to be an origin about him awakening his power, but I don't know, I expected more spectacle. I genuinely thought we were gonna get a scene of him beating up ladies' friends and that they were really only there to like show the real difference between pre-Devil Power Dante and post-Devil Power Dante, but then they all died. Well, maybe that's just me.
I will say this too. I did want to see more out of the squad. Like, you can't introduce this elite hunting demon squad and tell me how great they are, and then not really showcase how great they are. Because it was, I feel like, a lot of talk and a lot of build up, but not a lot of action. Because they did it with Lady, obviously. Like they gassed Lady up and were saying that she was the strongest person in the room in certain moments and being a badass A B C D whatever it may be. I say A B C D X Y Z. Um, but with her team, I feel like it wasn't that. I feel like when her team really got into fights for real, they got fucked up. No matter who it was, no matter who it was against. And the last little arc where not arc, the last little part where they lived, I was like, okay, it was brutal to see them die in the way that they died, almost on some Omni Man Invincible type shit. But I feel like up until that point, there should have been a moment where we saw them like taking down some badass demons, or maybe like there being like a first wave of demons that the White Rabbit sent out to get the stuff, and they killed them easily. I think that may be the way to go about that. But you have to establish those side. You get to establish her team as being like super competent and being super strong outside of just hearing what they have to say about the characters. What outside of just hearing what they have to say about the characters and what they are versus what they actually do the entire series.
When the show let him do his thing, it was great. But specifically when it let him do his thing. Okay, let's talk about Lady. I know what her name is, but it's really only relevant to me because of the sound of Vice President Batman saying Arkham. I don't really know anything about Lady in the game, so I didn't realize she would be such a prominent character when she was introduced. Like, being the actual main character prominent. Which leads to what I think is the biggest problem both with the show and with her. In that, a combination of how simple the plot really is when you break it down, and the direction they chose to take it negatively affected her as a character. Okay, let me break this down. Dante is overpowered. And when you
Okay.
really look at it, with only him present, the whole plot line lasts like 4 episodes, and even that may be a stretch. As I watched the show, I couldn't help but think, wow, they are really using Lady to extend the show's runtime. By a lot. Like constantly cutting back and forth between her learning not to be racist and Dante unlocking his devil trigger.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I do think that, like I said before, I think Dante is kind of flat And not because of the series. I think as a character in general, he's mostly flat. I think Dante usually exceeds, even in the games, like by the side characters. I think the side characters are what pushes Dante's story further outside of the main plot, like Vergil, like Lady, like Trish. Which I'm hoping we see Trish at some point next season. If not, well, they'll probably say Trish for like the third season, and they'll probably make Vergil like the main guy for the second season. But all that being said, I think that this series in this season heavily depended on Lady and the White Rabbit in their stories and how they are able to interact with Dante to push him further.
Now, I know what a deuteragonist is, but it's not simply a matter of her having a plot line. It's a matter of the plot being about her. That's what really gave me the vibe of, does she think she's the main character? When Dante comes to his realization about the fact he should care about what's happening and protect his dad's work, she literally has a line that's like, it's not about your dad, it's about me. And she's right. But why? This is like the anti-miraculous ladybug. Instead of having the main character butt into someone else's story to make themselves the focus, here the main character is trying to be the focus when, in the grand scheme of things, they're a plot device that knows how to fight.
I don't necessarily think that is a horrible thing per se. Like I think you can have the show be great and have Dante not be the super main focus of it in moments, especially in this season where, because again, as a Devil May Cry fan, I think this is probably where a little bit of the unfamiliarity of the series kind of comes into play. I feel like the most development you're going to get with Dante is the arc he has with his brother Vergil, and they let you know how important Vergil is in this season of the show. But obviously, he's just not here. He's in hell in this whole Neo Angelo thing that he has going on there. But that being said, I think you can do that, and like I said before, that can be done, and you can still have the side characters take front and center, and have Dante take a back seat, and it still be good. Because I do think, again, Dante, kind of to this point, Dante is more of a plot device. He is a super big stick that you use to beat enemies with, and you give that big stick to characters like a Lady, or in the instance of the vice president, he talks about using Dante as a weapon to fight the evils of hell and the devil and whatnot. And I think I think that honestly could be a great arc for Dante in particular, where if he takes more of a reserved role in things and he's manipulated and pushed around for the most part, either emotionally or really can't do it physically because he's as strong as he is. But if you just manipulate Dante a lot, and to the point to where he's tired of this shit, and that could be part of his arc going forward, where he just breaks out of the facility they put him in, and he's not hearing nothing from anybody else. That, especially when it comes to Vergil, I think that could be an amazing way about going around developing him. But I think that just requires a little bit of patience to do so. And if Lady isn't entertaining to you or a really captivating character, it's going to be bad. Because for most fans that played the game, they're coming here for Dante. And if Dante's pushed to the back burner, then it's like, okay, you have to pray that they enjoy Lady. So you really are kind of putting yourself into a corner there in regards to that, because it's going to be difficult to make that stuff pop when you don't have the interest in it for real. If you're not interested in anyone but the main hero, I was to say.
Once again, Dante is overpowered. I get that that's the reason they go out of their way to make sure he doesn't really do much, but A, that's not really an excuse when they could have written a different plot. I've seen enough discussion to know that they aren't being accurate to the official games. Lady apparently isn't even a character until Devil May Cry 3. And B, there is a point where it gets frustrating, and because Lady is the plot extender, all that frustration gets focused on her. To prove my point, let's go over this. In episode 2, Lady captures Dante. This is already a pretty precarious position to put a character in because we like Dante and she's basically antagonizing him for no reason the whole time. And let's face it, antagonizing the main character is audience poison. We like Dante, and she and the government are just trampling over him with her being the face of it, so we're just being primed to dislike her, even if on some level we can understand her reasoning. Then there's the bridge scene. Dante is overpowered, so the show needs to put obstacles in the way of him, like killing the main villains. This is mostly in the form of being shackled until the end, but even at the end, the bomb she put in his head goes off right before he can send the rabbit 6 feet under, so she and Darkcom are already making things worse. Then there's the whole playing devil trigger thing with switching between scenes that I've already discussed. Then there's realizing the fact that the main plot is about the villain hating her, her team, and her whole company, and the real conflict is between them, with Dante really just being a means to an end in this plot about Darkham killing refugees and America invading Hell. Oh, yeah, right, she's also been complicit in killing refugees. But don't worry, she learns not to do that and orders her men to rescue the demons in the building.
See, this is where I'll give like a little bit of pushback. I do think that it's perfectly fine for them to make the audience not like her throughout the story, because you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to like her. She's supposed to be antagonizing. She's supposed to be annoying, and that's supposed to be part of her arc. I think that's where they messed up in regards to the other side of things. If you're going to try to take a character on an arc to where they are hated, they're a villain, the audience doesn't like them, and you're trying to make the audience not like them, you have to put in a lot of effort to make that character more likable in the end. And I think that's where they fell short, because she didn't really have much of an arc in regards to getting back into the audience's good graces, outside of where he's talking about here, where she ordered her men to save the McLuhan or the demon refugees that were in the White Rabbit's hideout. Because literally after that, all she really did was fight with Dante for a little bit, but then at the end of the episode or the end of the season, she went right back to knocking him out and capturing him and putting him under lock and key. But again, I think the difficulty here in a show like this, or at least the way they're doing this, is that I think a lot of the development is going to be put in the second season. I think this is supposed to be a really big setup season in regards to introducing characters. And I won't even, I understand Lady is here to be an extender, but I would argue that the White Rabbit is like the main character this season and not even her. I think she's like character number 2 in comparison to the whole plot. Granted, you don't see the White Rabbit as much as you see her, but I think his story and him as a character is felt a little bit more than her, personally, in my opinion. Because even in episode 6, where they like showcase both their stories, they didn't necessarily stick to hers as much. Like her story, you kind of already knew from other flashbacks in the beginning of the series, but you were really captivated and enthralled by him the entire time.
This is immediately negated by her boss having them all killed, but because of plot shenanigans, she never notices this. Now, of course, that isn't her fault. But it means that as we watch her do everything she does after this, we have to keep in mind that the family that saved her life got burned to death after trusting her, and she continues to trust the guy who did it even as he keeps popping up evil red flags. Anyway, she and Dante reunite, and despite everything that's happened up to now, she's still antagonizing him. This made sense when she thought he was an evil demon, but she just learned that demons are just analogies for Middle Easterners, and if anything, I think she somehow got even more hostile to him.
So this is what I was talking about in regards to like the other side of that arc, other side of that rainbow. They, or at least the downside of the roller coaster. They put you on the coaster of hating her, and when you're supposed to come down and get into more comfortable stuff in regards to, well, not comfortable, that's not the word I'm looking for, but more of a area where you're supposed to like her. I think that was kind of rushed, and they didn't really take their time in writing that out. And I think it was kind of they thought just showing positive interactions with the demons that she interacted with would be the thing that everybody would look and see like, oh, okay, she's not that bad. She's a good person because she was nice to these people. But in reality, she hasn't changed her perspective on how she interacts with all demons. It's just that particular group. I think in the next season, it will be interesting if she does go more into being an advocate for demons a lot more, and maybe is the one that breaks Dante out of prison because she feels like she messed up. But c'est la vie, we shall see.
What I said about audience poison, this kind of dynamic only works if the character we like is being antagonistic back. Otherwise, it's bullying. And Dante is decidedly not being antagonistic to her. Then, when Dante finally wants to go do the plot instead of just being kidnapped by everyone, she shoots him in the leg and runs off because we're only on episode 7, before Dante gets even an inkling of the refugee plotline. And even then, he doesn't really know anything about the rabbit or what's going on. And then, after the villain is beaten, she beats Dante and helps Darkham capture him, immediately after watching her boss start an invasion of hell. Remember, she recently learned that demons actually aren't inherently evil, and it seems she doesn't care. Look, I know her character arc isn't complete, but the season is, and I feel like there's a limit to how many innocent lives you can fail.
And that's the one thing I do hate about shows, especially some of the shows on Netflix, is I feel like because maybe this show got greenlit for multiple seasons from the start, or maybe they're hoping it show gets more than one season. But the thing I absolutely hate about a show, especially in the movies, is when the complete arc is not written for that outing. Like, I should be able to watch this season separate from other seasons and get a full story start to finish. And the next season or the next movie should be either a continuation of what happened in a different matter or a whole new lesson altogether. I shouldn't be having to go through this one lesson throughout the entire show or entire trilogy or series of movies. You can give me like different versions or updated aspects of it with new characters being introduced, new information being shown. But this series sort of like shown the relationship with Lady and the White Rabbit, and that whole arc should have been built up and concluded. Because even then, like, the crazy thing about it is that even though there is such a relationship and bond that they were trying to show you with Lady and the White Rabbit throughout the series, the fucked up thing is when you get to the end of the series and she's interacting with him, he's kind of treating her like, yeah, you were just not a means to the end, because Dante's the means to the end, but you were just kind of like the byproduct of this thing that I hate. So I don't even hate you as much. I'm gonna kill you because you killed my family. But it's not that I hate you, is that I hate the thing that represents you or that is behind you or backing you. So that like internal blood feud or grudge doesn't necessarily hit as much that they hyped it up to. And even like, to your point, and to his point, even with Dante literally seemed like a tool for everybody to use. Like he didn't seem like a person as much as a plot device for the most part in the series. Which again, I don't think for this season, I don't think will be the case for next season, because he's going to have a lot of growing to do in regards to interacting with his dead brother. And we know that 90% of the Devil May Cry universe or story is pretty much just Dante dealing with Vergil, and in different forms and fashions and variants. But no, get back into it. And he's cooking with his video so far. His video is great so far. I'm really enjoying it so far.
To notice you're helping your obviously evil boss kill before I'm allowed to complain about it, and she has clearly hit that limit. The thing is, I don't dislike Lady's arc in and of itself, just how it's used in the narrative. And even though I can identify all the narrative reasons she's acting like this, it doesn't change the fact that she's acting like this.
The FBI estimates that you would need...
Oh my god. My bad, y'all. I need to get an ad blocker. I keep forgetting to fucking get an ad blocker for YouTube. I'm gonna try to get one after this, because I want to react to more videos. I need to make sure that I'm not dealing with fucking ads. Oh my god. All right, we're back.
Besides, my liking of her arc might just be carried by the White Rabbit.
Yeah, man, on that note, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel and you're enjoying this video, if you're watching the video up until this point, you're enjoying the video. So please hit your boy with a sub, hit your boy with a like on the video, and let's keep it pushing.
The White Rabbit was the best part of the show. The design, the voice acting, his skill and planning, it was all great.
I loved him as he's the best character, like you said, the best character in the series and my favorite. The only thing that I think really annoyed me about the character at the end was the fact they showed his face. I felt like the fact you didn't see what he really looked like, especially after the whole situation with the episode 6 backstory, I think it would have just been more poetic for him to keep the mask on as like a representation of what he lost. And now it just feels like a mask he was using just for the fun of it and not for like any kind of symbolic reasoning. Or maybe I'm just thinking about it too deep. I don't know.
And his backstory made it even better. By the way, the fact I walked away from episode 6 feeling far more sympathetic to him than Lady is another thing I feel might be a failure of the writing. Her family wasn't even killed by demons, just her very human crazy dad. Especially when her reaction to other people's backstories is going blah blah blah, who cares about your sad backstory. Seriously, look at this image. Look at it. Rabbit's whole plotline about running away to Makai and...
Hold on, let me go back to that. She was a legend of Sparta. When I was young, my father would tell me stories about it. A long time ago in the ancient times, demons ruled or rebelled against humankind. With his sword and his portals, he shut the portal to the demonic realm. Okay. I understand that. Where I will agree is the aspect of showing why she hates demons so much. Because if she understood that was her father, and she understood her, and she saw her father put some shit in his neck, she knows her dad isn't a demon. So her hatred of demons and that being like a sob story for why they kill her family, that didn't necessarily add up. And I know they're gonna probably set up for the Arkham stuff with her dad later on and having actual Arkham be in there, but I think they need to have some more flashbacks of maybe her early days in Darkholm, where she's encountering demons and how evil they can be. And I think that could probably help with a lot of her development. Because again, this second season is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in regards to helping out her development, Dante's development. You still have to develop Vergil because he's going to be a significant part of the series. And at some point, you got to talk about the president and all the shit that's going on with Darkhold. But yeah, the second season is going to be crucial. But I think this is just like a tester, feeler outer season to see if people are interested in it at all, which we'll see how it goes.
Rabbit's whole plotline about running away to Makai and then having his family killed, and how it ties into how Lady, and to a lesser extent unfortunately, Dante's families died, and how things like that creates monsters, was excellent. The only thing holding it back was Lady. Okay, I wrote the first draft of this video as a sort of stream of consciousness, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was shocked and appalled that Lady showed up again. Villains don't exist in a vacuum. They're often meant to reflect and enhance whatever is going on with the hero. The White Rabbit is a broken reflection of the violence he was subjected to by Lady's team. So the confrontation between the two of them was like a crystallization of the entire plotline. The Rabbit did his bit, bringing in the dramatic story, trying to justify his incredibly evil actions, and distilling the similarities between everyone. The problem was, well, Lady's conclusion, in that she doesn't really reach it. She just goes, of course, only a human could be this psychotic. First of all, how dare you say that when you only stopped talking about how incredibly inherently evil demons were like literally an hour ago? And secondly, that was your conclusion?
I feel like her arc should have been a lot more about her regretting or questioning a lot more things in regards to her murdering demons up to this point. Because if she interacts with demons in this scenario and finds out they're not only good people in some instances, but these ones specifically, like refugees, at that point, the way I would write her story is to have her contemplate a lot of that and second guess herself a lot more. And I think she does it to an extent, but I think there needs to be more around her second guessing her as a demon hunter. And again, it's probably going to be something leading into the second season where maybe she'll free Dante because of that, and she'll have issues with Darkholm and leave Darkholm and do that whole thing. But I think they needed to do a more of a job of showing that in this season, because I felt like she realized that all demons are bad and then kind of carried on with her mission of killing more demons and not questioning their morality at all. Like, I feel like in her trying to kill the White Rabbit, it should have been a lot more compassion for him, especially when she realized why he was doing everything. But, you know, it's just me.
She barely reflects on her own actions and then goes right back to working for Vice President Batman as they start bombing poor families. I like to think that Rabbit realized he was just getting stonewalled with trying to be the villain for Lady, so at the end of episode 7 he was like, fuck it, let me focus on Dante. And it kind of works, but Dante is really late to the party, doesn't know anything, and his conclusion of not letting all the evil demons have access to humanity was predictable. I don't think he even really thinks about what the Rabbit's been saying about his dad locking all the non-evil demons with Mundus. It's like Lady got all the good setup and Dante got the mostly good conclusion, but neither got to have both. Also, for all the sympathy I have for the Rabbit, he's clearly wrong. I think I could make a whole separate video just about him. It's not a good thing that what I think is the shakiest part of his writing, that is his decision to bring down the barrier separating Earth and Hell, is the part that's the only reason Dante is even here in the first place. Okay, so do I have anything else to say?
Real quick, I think his point about everything with the rabbit being wrong, I agree with in regards to him feeling as though him tearing down walls and sacrificing millions of bodies and millions of lives and it not mattering because millions of lives have already been lost. Obviously, that's wrong. Like a life for a life is never equal, obviously. But I think that is part of what makes that compelling with him is the factor of all that tragedy and death that he saw when he finally found a family. That twisted and warped his mind, and I think that was the best part about his character is the aspect of, hey, yeah, I know for a matter of fact that everything I'm doing right now is wrong, or maybe he doesn't know it's wrong and he's just making it make sense. And that should have been more of a conversation with Lady and Dante in regards of like exposing the hypocrisy of his actions and what he's trying to do a little bit more. I think whenever you're talking about a villain and their motivations, it should be a big like moral and ethical question that is posed and poked and prodded at when it comes to what's going on with these characters, in my personal opinion. But again, I do agree with him. I think he is correct on that standpoint.
You know, I actually like the crazy religious vice president and his whole
I do too.
science of religion and God has a plan thing as a morally gray ally the hero definitely shouldn't trust. He got less interesting with the whole burning refugees thing, and I was like, oh, so he really is just the obvious bad guy. And then he and the American army actually successfully invaded hell to the point of being able to build a giant prison, and I just checked out. I guess Mundus isn't that big a deal if he and his forces have to resort to guerrilla warfare to beat these guys.
Yeah, that was something I really questioned because in the video games, Mundus was like OD fucking strong. And Vergil is strong as fuck on a Dante level, if not stronger in moments. You're telling me the regular military, or not even just the regular military, but the regular Darkholme forces were able to get all the way that deep into hell and not have to deal with Mundus's forces or Vergil? I feel like Mundus and Vergil should easily be able to get rid of anything with Darkholme, but you could also question if there's like an inside person from Mundus in that, because it could be like the whole situation with the newer Devil May Cry games where I think Nero, I think it's Nero, Vergil's son. In that game, there was a mole who was a demon, or he was either a demon or he was a villain, whatever it may be, and he was working within the good organization that was against demons, and that's why that organization was getting pushed so far, whatever it may be. I can't remember exactly how that stuff went because I haven't played the game in a very long time. But for the most part, I think you can. That may be what they may be trying to go for in regards to like the double agent type of thing, where Mundus is allowing it because it's part of his master plan overall.
Unless the plan is to use the humans' invasion to unify the lesser demons' loyalty to him, which I hope is the case.
That could be it too.
I actually like the comic relief here. Enzo was entertaining like 80% of the time, especially when talking to Dante.
I didn't expect to like Enzo as much as I did. I thought he was going to be a throwaway character. So the fact they kind of kept him around the whole time and had it being an ever-present character, I thought was kind of cool.
This made me ignore how baffled I was that he was still around. Why did everyone insist on bringing him with them wherever they went? It felt unnatural and dumb. His sacrifice came out of nowhere. Like, it made me sad, but it also made me confused.
I felt like Enzo's sacrifice did make a lot of sense. It was confusing because we didn't see a lot of that consistent growth from him. Like, there's nothing about his character to lead us to think that he'd be selfless enough to sacrifice his life for somebody else. Like, yeah, he talks about him rocking with Dante, and yeah, we see him do some nice things and say something and communicate with, or coordinate with one another as to what's going on. But I don't think that was all enough to make me believe this gummy eel of a person who even Lady acknowledges like a pretty bad dude is somebody who is noble enough to sacrifice themselves for somebody they consider a friend. I just didn't get that vibe off of Enzo.
By that he actually cares about Dante, but like, what was he even doing? What the hell has Sparta been doing for the last 2 millennia, and why did he just briefly come out of it to just have 2 children and then disappear again? Did they really make demons an allegory for the Middle East? Lady totally dies here, by the way. I enjoyed the show for the most part. I really loved the action, but I think it says quite a bit that episode 6 was my favorite episode, and I think it might have the least action out of all of them. But
great minds think alike. Episode 6 was a fucking masterclass, and I think episode episode 6 really saves a lot of this season. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think if you don't have episode 6, this show probably dropped me from like a B to a C, more than likely. Like, that's how great that episode was and how well it did developing the characters and like establishing how you should feel about them.
I can't look past the flaws that ultimately I blame on the plotline needing to be stretched out and the decisions taken to get there, and frankly odd choices made with the characters that just take me out of it. You know, when I was making this video, I wasn't sure if I should put it here or on my new anime channel, but I decided to go with this one. By the way, I have a new anime channel. Check it out if you like anime and manga. It's got almost 50 videos on it now. Shout out to my patrons, A and Skyman.
Yeah, shout out to him, man. Jesse Golo. That was dope. I wanna at some point go down some of his other videos in this channel, but he is definitely dope in how he presented that. Now, I gotta go to some of his other stuff to see if I want to keep that subscription, but I think that video earned it, so it's up for me. Y'all go show him some love in the comments. Let him know that Captain Diesel was here. But yeah, man, this was a interesting show. Like I said before, I gave it a B+. It seems like that other people are also enjoying the show to a certain extent. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about this first season of Devil May Cry anime on Netflix in the comment section below. Did you enjoy it? Did you share similar sentiments to me or Mr. Golo about how we felt about the season or some of the characters? But without further ado, this has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.